Welcome to the lesson, Advantages and Disadvantages of Fuel Cells Compared to Conventional Power Sources. In this lesson, we will discuss the major advantages and disadvantages of fuel cells, their current applications, and how they compare to other conventional power sources. Let us look at our lesson objectives. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to describe the historical development of fuel cells and their applications. Next, you will be able to identify the key advantages of fuel cells compared to conventional power sources. Later, you will be able to recognize the disadvantages and challenges associated with fuel cell technology. Following that, you will be able to explain the applications of fuel cells in transportation, stationary power plants, and portable systems. Finally, you will be able to compare fuel cells, internal combustion engines, and batteries in terms of efficiency, emissions, and performance. Let's look at the history of fuel cells. Hydrogen fuel cells were first discovered by Sir William Grove in 1839. Scientists experimented with them for many years, but it was not until 1959 that a fully working fuel cell was demonstrated by Francis Bacon. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, commonly known as NASA, utilized fuel cells in the 1960s for the Gemini space missions, and research on this technology has continued since then. Today, fuel cells are being developed for cars, buses, and power plants to provide cleaner energy solutions. We will now look at the advantages of fuel cells. Fuel cells are very clean when they use pure hydrogen, producing only water and heat. They are more efficient than engines that burn fuel because they do not rely on combustion. Fuel cells perform well even when the power required is low, and they respond quickly to changes in load. They also generate electricity directly with fewer energy losses, produce useful heat simultaneously, and can be refueled faster than a battery. Now, we will look at some of the disadvantages of fuel cells. Hydrogen is difficult and expensive to produce and store due to its low density, high reactivity, and demanding storage requirements. Fuel cells require very pure fuel because impurities can prevent them from functioning properly. They use expensive materials like platinum and must be protected from freezing or drying out. The systems that support fuel cells are complex, and fuel cells themselves are generally heavy and expensive. Since they are still relatively new technologies, engineers are working to improve them and make them more affordable. We will now focus on the applications of fuel cells. Fuel cells can be utilized in a wide range of applications. Large fuel cells can power buildings or hospitals and provide heat. Submarines use fuel cells because they are quiet and efficient. Buses are a good way to start using fuel cells because they are large enough to accommodate the system and can be refueled at central stations. Cars are the ultimate goal, but there are challenges, such as the availability and cost of hydrogen fuel. Fuel cells can also be used in small portable devices instead of batteries. This table compares fuel cells, internal combustion engines, and batteries. Fuel cells emit no emissions because they mainly release water. Internal combustion engines release more pollution, whereas batteries do not emit emissions when in use. Fuel cells are efficient, especially when the power needed is low, while engines lose efficiency at part load. Fuel cells can be refueled quickly, whereas batteries require longer charging times. Fuel cells generate electricity directly, whereas engines must first burn fuel to produce heat. Fuel cells are quiet like batteries, but engines are noisy. Fuel cells can provide a long driving range, and they require less maintenance than traditional engines. Batteries also require minimal maintenance, but may not offer as much range unless the battery pack is very large. Let's look at the summary for our lesson, Advantages and Disadvantages of Fuel Cells Compared to Conventional Power Sources. Fuel cells were first discovered in 1839 and have undergone improvements over time, eventually being utilized by NASA in the Gemini missions. Fuel cells are clean and efficient, work well at different power levels, and can be refueled quickly. Fuel cells face challenges such as the difficulty of storing hydrogen, the high cost of components, and systems that are still undergoing improvement. Fuel cells can power large structures such as buildings and buses, or small devices that typically use batteries. Compared to internal combustion engines and batteries, fuel cells are cleaner, more efficient, quieter, and can provide a longer driving range. Thank you.